And we are live. Hello, hello, and happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you've all had a wonderful week and looking forward to the weekend here. I do just want to, before I do kick things off, want to do a quick AV audio visual check. So if you could let me know in the chat, can you all hear me and see me? I do want to see. Hey, Jason, Connor, nice to see you. David, water polo guy, you know it. Yeses all around. You can all hear me and see me. Wonderful. We've got a very exciting workshop planned here today with a guest speaker coming from Europe. Now, really depending on where you're tuning in from, and I do just want to see, give a couple minutes for people to join us on this workshop and webinar. Let me know where you're currently tuning in from. Our team is headquartered out of Calgary, Alberta in Canada. We have colleagues located all over North America, but I do see people from London, Dublin, Los Angeles, Indiana, Montreal, Quebec. Welcome. What else do we have here? Turkey, Copenhagen, Argentina, Italy. So people from all over the world again. Thank you all for joining us this evening, this morning, this afternoon. Now, for those of you who are abroad, as with all of our workshops and webinars, we will be recording this and sending it out to everyone who did register today. So if it is quite late, no worries. If you have to have dinner, go to sleep, wake up in the morning for work, not a problem. You will receive this recording and material as soon as it wraps up. Now, beside the chat box there is a questions tab. If you have any questions for myself, for Adriana, our guest speaker, for any of our team backstage, please toss them into the questions tab. It's a lot easier for us to keep track of what wasn't answered and easier for us at the end of this presentation to go and answer in the in-depth Q&A session. Now, beside the questions tab, there is a polls tab as well. I'll be tossing in some polls throughout this presentation just to gauge the experience and kind of the level of the audience here today. But without further ado, let's get going. Today's an exciting workshop. Thank you all again for joining us. We'll be introducing you to UX design for XR applications and immersive storytelling. Now, we'll be taking about an hour and a half today to go through this workshop and webinar. I myself will introduce who we are, what we do here at CircuitStream. That'll take about 10 minutes or so. Then we'll dive into the UX design for XR applications and the immersive storytelling piece with Adriana. She'll take about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll open it up for an in-depth Q&A session at the very end. So it could be a little less than an hour and a half, could be a little bit more than an hour and a half, but we'll see, aiming for an hour and a half or so. But let's get going. So my name is Stefan. I'm the course lead here at CircuitStream. I have over 5 years of experience in the tech industry, working with travel IT technology, learning management systems, ERP and business integration platforms, and now in the world of augmented reality and virtual reality. Now, a little icebreaker about myself that I do like to mention to everyone and on all these workshops and webinars. I had the pleasure to train with Water Polo Canada in the 2008 Beijing Olympic team. I was too young to go to the Olympics, but a great experience nonetheless. And today we'll be joined by Adriana, and she'll be joining us from Paris, France. Adriana is an AR/VR designer, artist, and founder of a few companies, and now she's with Velvet Unicorn. She has over 7 years of XR and design experience, and a little bit about herself, a cool icebreaker. In fact, she's a stage actress as well, with over several years of acting in Paris and elsewhere around the world. Now, a little bit about us and the team here at CircuitStream. Who are we? What do we do? Now, CircuitStream was founded in 2015 when everyone was kind of ready and on the hype train of building VR and AR applications. We noticed the gap in helping people learn how to build and develop and manage these experiences. So since 2015, we've taught over 30,000 people how to develop and manage VR and AR projects and applications. And that's what we've been doing since 2015 there. Now, we're a team of about 20 people, again, mainly located in North America, but all over the world in South America, Europe, and Asia. And we're professionals in Microsoft, Vive, Valve, Oculus, HTC devices and platforms, as well as the Unreal Engine and Unity engines. Now, CircuitStream is also a Unity certified training partner. We work very, very closely with Unity. And training partners are approved based on their expertise, focus on quality education, and commitment to providing the highest level of training available. Now, CircuitStream is also a Unity channel partner, and that means we deliver training and application development services in the architecture, engineering and construction, automotive, transportation, and manufacturing markets as well. So there's three things that we do here at CircuitStream, and since 2015, the biggest and main thing that we focus on is education, helping people learn, get inspired by this technology, and to dive into it. And these are just some of the happy partners and professionals that we've had the pleasure to teach in our courses and programs. You know, you can see US Navy, Hulu, Nike, YouTube, Dell, Walmart. We had a group of their members join us. Hershey's, the chocolate company, making some delicious chocolates. I can't wait to get my hands on those. And various educational institutions and post-secondary schools there. Now, we do this through our XR Development with Unity course. This is the course we've been holding for 5 years now, adapting it each year with best practices. It's all live and online in real time with our instructors and developers. And if you're looking to take it a step further, we have a course starting little more than a week now, September 28th. Couple of seats left there if you're interested, and December 1st for those looking towards the new year there. Now, what differentiates us from the other educational providers out there? It's the one-on-one mentorship to work on your own personal project or idea. So it's one-on-one sessions each week to really focus on your interests, goals, your project, so you come up with something to show for by the end of the course, a prototype or a small project that you can continue working on, show friends, family, whatever it may be. Now, the second thing that we do here at CircuitStream alongside the education and training is content creation. So all of our instructors are developers working with these companies here and other companies around North America. And these are the ones that we have a pleasure and an honor to work with. In addition to the education and the training, as well as the content creation, the third thing that we do here at CircuitStream is an XR platform that we launched in the winter of last year. Now, this allows you to host your AR and VR applications, scale, distribute, and manage these applications, as well as track, measure, and analyze learning activities. Now, I will toss in a quick 2-minute video here for those of you who are new to us here on these workshops and webinars, just highlighting what the CircuitStream platform is about. 2 minutes long. I'll be right back, but I hope you all enjoy it.
Welcome to CircuitStream. Since 2015, we've taught over 25,000 people how to build innovative XR applications. Now, we're bringing everything that we've learned together into the CircuitStream platform, a central portal for everyone in your organization to experience, distribute, and even create XR content. Log into the platform and you'll be able to launch and experience your organization's XR applications with the click of a button. Our CircuitStream Hub removes all the friction of installing and updating apps by handling everything automatically in the background so your employees don't have to. While users are in XR, we capture data from the application, allowing managers to track usage, structure pilot projects, and express ROI to stakeholders. Working together with CircuitStream, we can build analytic views around your key performance indicators and the unique problem sets that you are tackling with XR. Managers can set up and control access across the organization as you expand and scale your XR applications to train employees, communicate ideas, or do something amazing that no one has even thought of before. Our goal is to give you the tools for innovation. If you have XR developers within your organization already, they can also use the platform to upload their own applications and manage them efficiently by publishing updates and tracking quality assurance issues. The CircuitStream platform is built to manage and scale across the organization, whether you are creating your applications internally or working with an outside vendor. Start experiencing, building, and scaling XR today with the CircuitStream platform.
Nice, quick 2-minute video. I hope that gave you a better idea as to what the CircuitStream platform is about. If you have questions, give us a shout. We're more than happy to talk more about it. But let's get going here. So now that you've learned a little bit about us, what are you going to learn today on this workshop? So today we'll be showing you the secrets on how to adapt UX to overcome nausea in XR and 360 videos, as well as to mitigate discomfort when designing XR experiences, planning XR environments for your users, and finally, basic navigational systems used for your main users. Now, in all of our workshops and webinars, I do like to ask this question, and I'm going to toss in a poll right here, right now in the polls tab. So check it out. How much Unity experience do you have on a scale of 0 to 10? 0 being never heard of Unity, 10 being that you're professional, been working with Unity for years. You can come and teach some of our programs, a Jedi Master. So I'm just taking a look here, and it looks like we have a lot of beginners. So a lot of numbers from 5 and under. Some of you are experienced in Unity here. I do see a 9 there, a few 8s and 7s. So it looks like the majority of the audience are beginner levels. Christopher, I see you got an 8 there. Good to see you. But, no worries. For those of you who did say 0 and have never heard of Unity before, what is Unity? Unity is a free 3D development engine for building games, simulations, and experiences. It's the easiest way to begin making apps for XR. Now, XR stands for extended reality. It's an umbrella term for augmented reality, virtual reality, and you can include mixed reality as well, AR, VR, and MR. Now, how does one actually go about creating their own idea, their own project, an immersive story, let's say, in Unity or for AR and VR? Well, you take your idea and you bring your idea into a creation engine like Unity. From there, you develop your project, your application, design it, optimize it, and then you push it out to one of the available SDKs, software development kits, the Oculus, Microsoft, or Steam SDKs. Once that's done, that's get pushed out to the relevant headset and device you developed for, and voila, you have your own VR and AR experience ready to go and share with others. But today is an intro to UX design and immersive storytelling. And it's truly an honor and a pleasure to have Adriana join us all the way from Paris, France, to help us all learn a little bit about UX design and immersive storytelling. Hey, Adriana, nice to see you. And
hi, how are you?
Great hands here. So I'll hop off. We'll take about 45 minutes to an hour or so just to introduce you all to this, and we'll catch you in a bit. Take it away, Adriana.
Thank you, Stefan. Really happy to have you. Love the snake. Yeah, I've made this filter. Really, really glad to have you all. Let's start right now. Whoa. Screen sharing. All right. Can you all see my presentation? Yes, can you see? Little test. No. Oh, sorry, I need to have to give permission to screen share.
All right. Hey, Adriana.
Yeah.
Under actions, there's enable screen sharing.
Yeah, actions, enable screen sharing.
Then you select the screen you would like to share.
It sounds like it was like a permission issue with my computer.
Possibly. Let me look into that quickly for you here. It was should be fine, but it could have been a little issue. So I'll just pop it open here. And perfect.
Security and privacy.
Yeah, I do like those snakes as well there. And no luck yet. Hey, to share your screen.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And how'd you get those snakes and that filter on you, just out of curiosity?
So it's a filter that I made on Snap Lens Studio, and that I published on Snapchat, and I connected it to Livestorm through the desktop application Snap Camera. You can use like any Snapchat filters on like Zoom calls and so on.
Right. Well, hey, Adriana, maybe if you have that enabled, is there a way to disable it? Maybe that will allow you to share your screen.
Let me try.
Let's try that. Could be the issue there.
I
was like, what is that on her head when we first joined in? So she'll be joining again. But I appreciate the patience, guys. Technical difficulties. Gotta love it. Gotta love it when it happens live troubleshooting. But I do see a lot of familiar faces here. Pavan, great to see you. Kyle helping out. Let's check if the screen sharing works here. I'd say Donnie had first world problems.
No, it's a privacy issue with the computer. Oh, all right. Let me try it from the other computer that worked.
Sure, no worries. No worries. So we'll probably get it started in about 5 minutes or so here. But let's see if there are any questions here that we could highlight. So I see Susie. Will this be sent as a recording? Yes, Susie. I see Kyle had answered that. How long is the session? About an hour and a half or so. Adriana will take 45 minutes to go through her part, and then I'll wrap it up with 5 minutes, and we'll have our Q&A session at the end. No, we're not using OBS, Glenn. No, maybe we should consider that in the future. Yes, it is Livestorm. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it. But yeah, no, Adriana will join us here shortly. She was using a computer yesterday during our tests. So yeah, will do, Glenn. Yeah, we'll be sure to reach out there. Perfect. So I'm just going to zoom up the chat here, see, let me know in the chat here, what are you really looking forward to and to get out of this workshop and presentation? Really looking forward to seeing what you are all doing. Is anyone currently working with VR storytelling? Are you creating your own immersive experiences right now in VR? Let me know in the chat. I do want to see that. And I see Dayon just shared something here for us. He shared a spreadsheet. So this spreadsheet, toss in your LinkedIn profiles, connect with each other. If you need some support somewhere, you can add it in the comments. We love to have people network together, collaborate with each other. So very, very useful. Feel free to toss in your info on that spreadsheet there. But let's see. I see Jessica, yes, creating the immersive publications. Now, that'll be super exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out with that. I see David had written resources on UX presentation. Yep. So Adriana will be sure to cover that. Kurt would like to do more with 360 video. So Adriana will dive into that. We will also one day be hosting a workshop with 360 video. So stay tuned for that. Kurt will be sure to let you know. I see Adriana had rejoined here. So we'll just wait to see if the screen share works. I see Mike. I'm interested in location-based entertainment applications of immersive storytelling. That's wonderful. It works. Woo! Well, thanks for hanging on, guys. Appreciate it. I'm going to make a note of all these comments here that I see, just so we could follow up with you and your interests there, help you out the best way we can. But Adriana, back to you. Take it away, and I'll join again to wrap up everything in the Q&A session.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan, and thank you so much for your patience, guys. This kind of thing still happen in 2020. All right, so let's start with UX design for XR applications and immersive storytelling. I'm really, really happy to be with all of you today. And our objective will be to go from the screen to extended realities. Basically, the screen is the device that you guys are building your experience for, whether it's a tablet, a mobile phone, a VR headset, or like augmented reality glasses, to the amazing immersive worlds, universes that you guys want to build, and how we make that bridge possible. So I am Adriana Vecchioli. The name of my company is Velvet Unicorn, and we specialize in XR design and prototyping. You can follow me, like send me a message on socials, Adriana Vec, just a tweet away. And I love to design and prototype XR ideas. The crazier, the better. I've worked with small startups and big companies and a lot of different industries. Here, our objectives today will be to learn and explore together how to craft powerful stories and intuitive interactions, because you guys, you all have like powerful ideas, powerful stories. And what I want us to do is to design experiences that take all the frictions out of the way so that they can really make your stories shine. And for that, in order to do that, we need to think like a human. That sounds simple, but it's not that simple. We need to explore and listen to the world around us to find the right clues that will teach us how to design our XR experiences and stories. And what are the skills that we need for that? We need a lot of skills, building in Unity, spatial computing, sound design. But I want to go back to basics: empathy and communications. And those skills are like superpowers because they help us to understand the world around us, to understand how people react and behave, but also to anticipate how people react and behave so that we can offer experiences that delight our users. UX design for XR apps and immersive storytelling is like an infinite topic. There's so much to say. We can be talking for like hours and hours. But today, I will limit it to 5 topics that I think are particularly challenging, that apply to any kind of XR experience and that can like change the whole game. The first one will be, how do we shape the space? The second will be how to handle the exchange of information. Third will be how to deal with movements. The fourth one, how do we design digital representation of your users, the avatars? And finally, how to tell the perfect stories for AR, VR, and XR. And let's start big with the space and one of its main challenges. One of the main challenges for storytellers is learning to think in terms of spheres instead of rectangles. So I'm not the one who said it, it's Robert Stromberg. Robert Stromberg is the director of the movie Maleficent, and he also won an Oscar for Avatar's visual effects. And he co-founded the virtual reality company that makes VR and AR entertainment. So to summarize, the danger is rectangular thinking. But what do we mean by that? What we mean is we experience the world in spheres, and rectangular thinking is somewhat counterintuitive. It feels familiar to all of us because we've been taught to think inside 2D rectangles, like a piece of paper, a mobile screen, a tablet. But the rectangle is pretty rare in nature, unlike spheres. Spheres are everywhere in nature. So rectangles are pretty artificial, and we need to kind of like step back from the rectangle to step into the sphere. And an example is, for instance, with movies and the pretty old world of cinema. The eye is captive of a director's will. The camera is telling you where to look at. You don't really have a choice. And everything outside the frame is wiped out. However, in XR, your eyes are the camera, and it applies to any kind of XR like VR, AR, and so on. And therefore, you are free to look around in any direction. So that's why we have to design for 3D space and no longer the 2D space. Video games started building universes for years, and sometimes even like infinite universes, and gradually removing this limitation. I don't know if you remember playing like some games, let's say they have like only one track, like Mario Kart, and then you try to take a sideway to see what's behind, like on the side. But then, you know, the player is stopped by like an invisible wall. We can't do that in XR. Is this to say that the frame has entirely disappeared? No. The physical frame is no longer, but it's being replaced by a psychological frame. And this frame is the player's psychology, their mood, their desires, like what they're interested in. Their psychology makes them frame the story, and that's what drives them to look at the story in a certain direction. So the more we understand them as designers, the more we can predict what they'll be looking at by knowing what they'll be looking for. And that's where empathy is crucial. The first step is capturing the gaze of your users. It is crucial because in XR, often the field of view is boundless. And this poses a challenge for storytellers, like how do you guide the viewer's gaze towards the action? Because we can watch in any direction, it's easy to miss some important information or a crucial plot point. So the storyteller or the designer must guide you with subtle cues while still respecting your freedom, because what we really love all about XR is our freedom to experience the app or the story. And coming up with those cues is not easy, especially with an additional dimension in VR and a moving baseline. We can't really rely on the old rules of composition for a frame. This frame is from the short 360 movie Invasion that was released by Oculus Studios a few years ago. And at the start of the story, you have like a cute little bunny coming at you and taking you towards an interesting direction. So here they're breaking one of the classic rules of movies, which is breaking the fourth wall. Like the character is watching directly at you. And when you have like such a cute little bunny with those huge eyes looking at you, like you're compelled and you have to follow like and go into their direction. But that's not the only way that in this short film they're guiding your attention. There is also sound, and particularly stereoscopic sound. So with acoustic engineering, we can trick you into thinking that each noise comes from a different direction, even though you're listening to the experience through headphones. And it's a whole other discipline. There's been a workshop a couple of weeks ago on XR sound design, and it blew my mind. And when you have sound cues coming from a specific direction and not just like ambient sound, it's very instinctual to turn into that direction. So that's a way to tip your users to go into a direction that's maybe not right in front of them. Now let's go to the second part, like how to deliver different levels of information. Before we dive into that, I want to let a few seconds, if you want to add some questions about the space and the section just before. So information. Up until now, in order to fit information from the world onto a 2D plane, like a piece of paper or a screen, we had to take the literal meaning of the things we would see into the world and make it abstract. Here's what I mean. This means that we need to use, because the world is so complex, so big, we can't fit it all on like one sheet of paper on one screen. We have to find shortcuts to explain what we mean. And for instance, is using symbols. A symbol is something we collectively agree on the meaning of what it means. So this is a code. This is something that needs to be learned. Sometimes they feel obvious because we've seen them everywhere, but they're not. Like they're learned. For instance, those are road signs. And do you know what the red sign on the right is? It's actually the stop sign in Japan. So that's not obvious for a lot of us here. Whereas in XR, you can represent the actual objects and the meanings. So for instance, this is an Oculus game locked in VR. I can see here that I can't really move forward, that the door is locked. And you have a lot of information that shows that this direction is pretty threatening, rather than having, like different symbols that you would have in a regular application. However, on the side, you can see this panel with different buttons and levers, like kind of like a dashboard. And my intuition is telling me that if I start fiddling with those, it may open a door or unlock something really interesting, like the next level. So don't force 2D solutions into a 3D space. The literal and the abstract are two separate worlds. So don't try to port one into the other. They have different conventions, different rules, that we'll see more of them. An example of a 2D solution that was weirdly forced into a 3D world is the Virtual Boy. The Virtual Boy is a toy developed by Nintendo in the 90s. So we're going really, really vintage on that one, like Throwback Thursday. It was heralded as a portal towards the future, and it's actually one of the ancestors of our current VR headsets. However, it was not offering true immersion. Instead, it was adding some depth and some parallax effects to 2D games. You can see it's like different like 2D layers, one on top of each other. And this made kids sick when they were playing for too long. So as a result, the Virtual Boy turned out to be a failure for Nintendo. Likewise, be careful about mixing 2D and 3D graphic elements. They can be confusing when you have like one or the other. And if you have an option to choose between one or the other, rather go for 3D when you're in XR. You can, for instance, separate, like having 2D menus before you enter the 3D world. But then once you're in the 3D world, it's best to avoid like 2D interfaces as much as you can. So I'd like to share a little story about the very, very first time I tried a Microsoft HoloLens. So the HoloLens is an augmented reality headset built by Microsoft. It is running on Windows. And the first time I used it with a coworker, we were going back and forth between different apps and demos to just test drive everything. And in order to start a new app, you have to open a new tab like you would on Windows to run a new program. And after a while, when I was putting the headset back on my face, I was surrounded with tabs, and it felt a bit like a nightmare, a bit like, like that game, that Windows game when you've won and you have all the cards everywhere. So I felt like that, overwhelmed by tabs. And I think that's because tabs belong to web and mobile design. They work well on a 2D environment, but not the 3D world space. So what can you do instead? Well, you can use real-world cues when appropriate. You can think of objects that your users are used to activate or manipulate to perform certain actions. For instance, so how do we type in AR and VR and XR? How do we input some text? It can be very annoying if, for instance, with your eyes, you have to select the letters. You can put a strain on your eyes, on your neck. And so to answer that question, Google developed a prototype to test various options. The most successful of those options replaced the keyboard with a marimba. And user would use the controllers like drumsticks and type on keys while they were as if they were playing music. And they really enjoyed the playfulness of this method. And this became one of the go-to options for typing texts in VR. Now let's see about like information hierarchy and layout. Information has to be structured very differently as well. In a 2D app, you can just put the most important at the top and center, and then stack it all down. Different in a 3D world. So here are 4 options that you can do. The first one is laying all flat in front of your user. It's easy to implement, but we wouldn't recommend that for good UX design. It's a bit of forcing a 2D solution into a 3D world because it's hard for the user because not all information can be grasped at a glance, and it's not easy to make quick decisions. Option 2 is curving the canvas. It's a little bit better. We're taking into account that we are experiencing the world in sphere, but still not enough. So what I would really recommend is option 3 and option 4. Option 3 is simplifying the content to the bare minimum and keep it only front and center. Option 4 is surrounding your user with the information. But I'd like to let you know that some studies have shown that 50% of users during a VR experience were never looking behind. They would only get information in the 180 degree in front of them. So careful with information you would put too far on the side or too far behind, because it may never be seen. So it can't be, like required information to progress. Let's see some examples. This is the beloved Beat Saber, one of my favorite VR apps. And this one is more of like option number 3, because everything that you need to know and see is right in front of you. You still have some super cool scenes around you, but it's okay. You don't need to stare at them. Actually, if you stare at them, you're going to miss some of the blocks and you're going to lose. A second option, so this is the menu of Disney VR short movies for The Jungle Book. You can see like you are surrounded by the different options, and it's pretty nice. It's pretty neat. You can consider one at a time, and then you have the super cool iconic Disney castle on the background. What is important to know is in front of the zone in front of the user is called the cone of focus. This is where you should place the most important information, and the rest can go on the sides, like just on their peripheral vision. This cone changes depending on the type of hardware you're using, between AR glasses or VR headsets. For instance, if your user has to move a lot, then the cone of focus will be wider. So make sure to test what's the ideal, what's the sweet spot for you. Overall, be mindful of the user and keep the density of information low. They don't need to have everything in view all the time. It's good to be like contextual and show only what's needed at the right time, not to overwhelm the users. And an AR application that did it really well is Pokemon Go. We all remember Pokemon Go, right? That was a pretty good summer. So in Pokemon Go, this is the AR mode, and you can see like the interfaces are really minimal, and like it's pretty elegant. Like the colors, there's only like the Pokemon that has like bright colors. The rest is pretty muted. And something that I really like is when you're being idle, you have some additional information about the Pokemon, like their names and the CP scores, and more information about your own tools and stuff. But when you are aiming your Pokeball to catch the Pokemon, all of that information disappears, because the only thing you need to know is the position of your Pokemon to aim right. Also, colors can be used to highlight certain elements, but use it wisely and sparingly, because bright scenes can cause fatigue. Although I think this tunnel is pretty cool, and sometimes I do like to get dizzy in XR, but maybe that's only me. Use size and perspective to your advantage. You can play with it. This is XR. You can do whatever you want. In our world, we have to abide by the law of physics. We don't really have a choice. And for instance, objects that are closer appears bigger, and they're smaller when they're far away. Well, in XR, you don't have to. Objects can be locked to the world space or floating to a certain distance to the user, and they don't have to follow their real sizes. And actually playing with the size and the perspective can be useful to highlight certain elements, informations, and objects. For instance, so this is from WebXR. WebXR is VR application that allows you to attend live music shows in VR, and they use amazing, like they invite amazing real artists like The Weeknd, John Legend. And what I love about WebXR is when you go to a real live show, sometimes, let's say if it's in a huge venue like a stadium or an arena, well, okay, this is magnificent, you have scale, but if you don't have a front row or a VIP booth ticket, you can't see the band because they're teeny tiny on the stage. And in VR, you don't need to keep it at like human scale. And I love that on WebXR, you have crazy, huge, amazing scenes all around, like infinite crowd. But at the same time, you're not missing anything from the show and the stage. And you can see that's also because like the musicians are more bigger, but also because of the navigation. You can even fly sometimes to the stage. Okay, that was a pretty meaty section. We're going to tackle next the movements and how to deal with movements in XR. If you have any questions about information, you can put them now into the question box. So moving shots, they can really make or break your experience. It's like an XR baptism of fire. Like good movements are insanely good. They're awesome. They make you feel like really strong emotions. But average or crappy movements can be really horrifying. And there's a danger lurking around, motion sickness. So you want to avoid that at all costs. Motion sickness happens when your brain registers conflicting information about movements. For instance, let's say you're in a car, high speed on the highway, and you're reading a book. So your eyes registering like static information, like the book is in front of you and it's not moving. So that's the information your brain collects from your eyes. However, your body is feeling the movement of the car on the highway, and so there's a conflict. And in that moment, the brain is confused, and that's when you start to be nauseous, and sometimes it can be more dangerous for certain people. The first thing to know for that is to avoid rapid and unexpected movements. That doesn't mean that you cannot have movements at all, or that you cannot have speed. Speed is awesome. I love speed. But for your users needs to be prepared. For instance, like having a gradual acceleration or some kind of warning that says like light speed mode activated. If a little tip is to add a steady horizon line to always keep the user grounded. Even if your experience is in a very abstract scene, maybe you can like have a horizontal line pretty far in the background to simulate the horizon, to kind of like keep a point of reference and make sure that it's pretty steady, because if the horizon is moving, it's exactly like being on a rolling ship during a storm, and it makes you seasick. You can also use like real world cues to show the trajectory. Like here we have a rail, and although we're going pretty fast, the rail is telling you which direction we're going next. So your brain is prepared. Another option is to encapsulate your player. So in Eve Valkyrie on Oculus, we are on a battlefield in space, and this is pretty intense. As you can see, there's a lot going on. We're moving in a lot of directions. There's lasers, there's dangers, there's enemies shooting at you. So you know, it could be, you know, some people could get really sick, but because we see the spacecraft around us, like the dashboard and so on, this is grounding us. So if you have an option to kind of like encapsulate your player, because we could totally imagine that game without seeing our own spaceship, you know, just having like full view. It's nice to keep that option possible for the users and players when it gets really, really intense. So be mindful of how your users have to move their head and their bodies. It's also an accessibility issue. All of us have different bodies and different physical reactions. So we can't fully predict, you know, like when an experience makes you nauseous or not. Like we all have like different thresholds and windows of tolerance, and we all have, you know, like various degrees of ease to move our bodies. But also it's a question of environments, because you want to make sure that your users are safe and they don't hit anything or anybody while they're in VR. Because remember, when we're in VR, we don't see what's around us, but also they can be in an environment where they just can't move. Let's say using your experience on a plane, sitting on the plane. Editing and transition. I like to consider transitions with the same care as of movements. In movies and videos, filmmakers have developed many techniques to transition in between scenes or in between point of views, which we don't even notice anymore. And actually, they're part of the storytelling. Transition can set the pace of the story. They can be slow and steady, or they can be fast, tense, and really jerky to convey tensions. But in the real world, we don't experience editing transitions that way. So they have to be treated entirely differently in XR. And likewise, avoid abrupt transitions and changing point of view too differently. And this is especially true if you're using teleportation to get around your XR world. You know, make sure that we're not totally disoriented when we teleport. I'd like to give you an example. Let's say, so you're, this is watching the scene from above. You have some interesting objects to grab, and like you're on position A, you're the eye, and the two diagonal lines are showing your field of view, like where you can watch. And let's say that in this experience, you can teleport yourself to see that object. If you're being teleported in position B, this can be highly confusing because everything is like the other side around, and it takes a mental effort to process that information and adjust. And the more mental efforts it takes to process, the more likely discomfort can occur. Now, if we go back to position A, and then we move, and then we move to position C, we're just zooming a little bit so we get closer to the object, but this is not too different. You can also make sure to guide the user during the transitions to make sure we know we're transitioning towards something different. And in this short film, like it's a 360 film named Anechoid that was shot in France, in Paris, you have, at some point, you have this woman that comes to you, also breaking the fourth wall and like looking at you and telling you to be quiet. And she invites you to follow her to the next scene. But if you run out of idea and you really don't know what to do to transition, you can always default to soft fade to black. And that makes me transition to the next section, avatars. Avatars are pretty tricky because avatars are representation of ourselves in a digital world, how we choose to represent our bodies in the virtual space. And they are tricky because we have to deal with some like the identities of our users. And it's really hard to predict how your user will feel in a digital body. In my experience, being assigned a character's body that was different from highly different from mine was awkward because we all know what our body looks like, how it responds, how it reacts, and that sense cannot be fooled yet. For instance, if I close my eyes and I extend my arms, I know where my hands are, but if I'm in an experience where those arms are much longer, this is weird. However, characters are really important. A story is nothing without characters. So we have to strike this perfect balance of immersion while also respecting, like the specificity of each user and player. So realistic full body avatars are really, really hard to get. And I think we're not there yet. But maybe once we have different sensors, different on our articulations, maybe that would work. Because when we add those, like a full body avatar, we need to predict where the legs and the arms of the user will be, and often this prediction is misaligned with where their bodies really are. And that gap creates the confusion that can also create some kind of motion sickness as well. So in gaming, gloves are often used to remove identifiers like age, gender, skin color. For instance, for me, it's pretty weird when I'm in a VR experience or an XR experience, and when I see like really masculine hands, because I'm used to mine that are smaller, and vice versa. So that's an example on the Climb by Oculus. The hands are covered by gloves, but also there's no arms. It's only like floating hands from rock to rock. And Spaces by Facebook, like a social VR platform, you have standardized templates that you can modify in apps. And however, a lot of people when they released Spaces complained that you couldn't pick the size and the shape of their characters, so they couldn't fully identify with their avatars. That being said, I really like the goofy looks, the cartoony look, because it's taking just a whole different approach, and it's not supposed to look exactly like you're in a different world. I like also that in Space, I also like the cartoony design they went for, like the variety of customizable options. But also I like that you don't have to have an avatar that looks human. For instance, you can have a robot. And when you're having like a non-human avatar, like, you know, you're free to have a completely different experience. But in general, less is more, and some XR content makers took a radical approach to keep their avatars to a bare minimum. For instance, the highly popular Job Simulator, one of the most popular VR games ever, where you are simply represented by a pair of floating white gloves, a bit like Mickey Mouse's, and pretty low poly as well. Also, remember that you're always allowed to be creative, and none of these rules are set in stone, so you can break the rules. For instance, representing avatars in an abstract form contradicts what I just said earlier, to in general always go for real world representation. That's the case because you can't force someone to slide into a character's skin, and to make that connection happen, there needs to be common grounds between you and the character, but also the freedom to extend yourselves to that digital representation. So simplifying avatars is one way to get around this problem, but that's not the only way. So here's another interesting of breaking the rules. So in Abby VR, so this is a horror game on Oculus. It features Abby, an android robot, thirsty for love and looking to fix us imperfect little human beings. And it's looking to fix us by updating our programs and performing surgery on our brains with a butcher's knife. It's pretty horrific. In this game, your avatar is the woman that you see in the background. So it's about a young woman. She's powerless and strapped to a hospital bed. And to me, I felt that it added to the discomfort and to the idea of powerlessness that built up the tension and the suspense in this experience. Another one that was particularly thrilling is in Batman Arkham VR. At some point, you have a mirror, and you catch your reflection, and you are actually Batman. And a lot of people loved it because it really tied into, you know, like their childhood dream to become Batman. So yeah, XR is an opportunity to become whoever you want to be. When in that, when you're not sure, test with real people, test with like real situations, not just your friends and your colleagues who are familiar with your vision. And now on to the very last section of this presentation, stories. What makes a good story in XR? First, start with something short. In XR, a lot of our senses are alert. We're no longer just a spectator, we become an actor of the story. Therefore, start with something short, not to overwhelm your users. There's no perfect duration for an experience at the moment. It's still like it's a new medium. We're still exploring how long. So start with short and maybe increase, if you have good results. So after releasing the live action film, The Jungle Book, Disney released 4 short VR movies based on the Jungle Book stories, and none of them were longer than 5 minutes. Trust in Me is one of them, and it has a short and very simple plot. So you are in the jungle, on a branch, on a very high tree. And then you have a shape in the shadow that comes closer around, and it's Ka, the snake, coming your way with a Scarlett Johansson hypnotizing voice, inviting you to trust her. And of course, there are always surprises when you trust the snake. Start from scratch. Don't try to port an old project into VR and AR and XR. They are a completely different medium. Not all stories translate so well to each medium, so it's better to start afresh. So this is Temple Run 2, one of the most downloaded mobile games ever. And its structure is linear. You have one road, one track, and it fits pretty well smartphone screens. They released the game on Samsung Gear VR and entirely redesigned it. It's in 3D, and the scenes are richer and more complex. The navigation is also entirely different, allowing players to check around in all directions. So what they did actually was finding the very essence of the Temple Run saga and build a story from scratch specifically for VR. Feel free to blur boundaries between the movie and the game. Video games have been taking a cinematic approach for a long time in terms of graphic design and flow, and now they're even capturing some big Hollywood budgets like GTA. So it makes sense now that movies can take a reciprocal turn and get gamified and interactive. An example I really like is the Star Wars experiences. They're really incredible. You know, you can fight with laser sabers like a Jedi, and the graphics really have this iconic cinematic feel. It's hard to know whether it's a film or like a game. Atmosphere prevails over the narrative. This one is very important because not so much for AR, but for VR, you can't bypass the creation of a compelling universe because your user is immersed into that universe. So your universe should also tell that story. I really like Lost from also Killer Studio because you see the environment around you is fairly simple, but it's telling a story. You see, it's a forest, but you have those little sounds. You can see how some of the ferns are like slightly moving, the lights, the smoke, the sky. Loved it. Do more than replicate reality. Yes, you can create a VR experience to go to the beach, but that will not compare with the actual experience to go to the beach. Whereas in XR, you can do anything. You can have unicorns flying around in your living room, like leaving a trail of sparkles. You have unlimited power, so make sure to use it. So let's see what our beloved job simulator did. And in this game, you can cook in a restaurant or work in an office. And that sounds like the most boring game ever, right? Like, who would want to work during their spare time in VR? Well, actually, it's super successful, and for a simple reason. They had a little twist to reality here and there to make job simulations absurdly funny. For instance, you can, in the kitchen, you can do anything to anything with the tools to unleash your creativity, but you can also like be a destroyer and throw objects around and break them and set the kitchen on fire. I've found it very cathartic and highly satisfying. Another one that I love, that is one of my favorite VR experience ever, and one that I always recommend for someone who's new to XR, is Tilt Brush. So here you can paint in 3D and you can animate and walk around your masterpieces and so on. By the way, this example of Tilt Brush was made by the Disney animator who created the character of Ariel. So everything is possible. Empower people, empower your user, let them do things. So this is an experience that I designed the concepts for the launch of the new Hunger Games book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. You have like a little Easter eggs for the readers. When you go, like you have a website, and when you go on that website, it opens your phone camera and you can scan the cover and the cover animates. And I love that some people like made some videos and they added their own spin to it, and I created a little story, like really bridging the digital with the physical world, like by grabbing the actual jewel on the cover. An inward journey to empathy. So I really, I feel it was XR. It really alters our feeling. I experienced it firsthand because we are immersed into the story. I think we're feeling the story at a deeper level, at like a more cellular level. So we can put this power to good use by building empathy and not just use empathy to create our stories. The New York Times produced a series of 360 VR videos on reports ranging from astronomy to war. And this one, The Displaced, follows a group of children that's been displaced because their homes have been destroyed by war. And it really, really moved me at a very, very deep and visceral level, even though it never showed any like drop of blood or anything graphic. But instead of telling me how to feel, it just gave me the keys to understand their situations and like walk a mile in their shoes. And this experience allowed me to draw my own conclusions, which is always more powerful than telling you what to think, because hands-on learnings always go much further than lectures. A quick example is this is the very first VR game I built a lifetime ago. So it's on named Midnight Sky. It works on iOS and Android. And the purpose was to help people with anxiety. So when you're getting hit by anxiety, there are some techniques to calm you down, like breathing exercises, meditation. But when anxiety really shakes you and makes you lose control over yourself, it can be difficult to bring yourself to a place where you can start meditating and doing breathing exercise. So what if we could have a little bubble where you could safely retreat? And so I built this little universe. You can just pop your phone into a cardboard and you can float into space, explore at your own pace. Some stars and planets interact with you, but always with relaxing sounds and music when you come near them. So thanks a lot for being here. I hope you are inspired and empowered to design beautiful and moving stories for XR and any new reality that's coming our way. The future is yours. Let's build powerful realities together. And to wrap up, I'm going to let Stéphane take over again, and I'll see you for the Q&A.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Adriana. Pleasure to have you. That was wonderful. Everyone on the chat that I've seen had enjoyed it. Carrie found it amazing. So what I'll do here, again, with all of our workshops and webinars, I'm going to take 5 minutes just to quickly wrap up. I know we flew through this content very quickly, and then we're going to hop into Q&A. We have a bunch of questions in the questions tab there. Adriana, if you want to take some time, you can hop over to the questions tab, filter it with upvotes or not answered. If there are any questions there in the audience that you want us to answer first, upvote those questions. We'll be sure to cover it. And before I dive into this last kind of concluding part, you know, we love to ask this on all of our workshops and webinars, and I just published the poll here in the polls tab. On a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this workshop to others? You know, it helps us know whether we should continue holding these workshops and webinars, maybe have Adriana back again to go deeper into immersive storytelling. So please let us know in the questions tab, or sorry, the polls tab, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being, you know, wouldn't recommend it, 10 being would tell everyone. Please let us know. It helps us out a lot. But, you know, we did fly through this quite quickly. And if you are interested in taking the next step, we're diving deeper into this, we'd be more than happy to have you with us. Whether you're looking to upgrade your skill set, add a skill to your tool belt, we've had many people take our courses just for that. If you're looking to apply this to work, bring it back to your own business or somewhere you're currently working, you know, we could help you create a proof of concept to bring back, show your colleagues, and get that buy-in from the team. If you have a group, you know, a team looking to learn more about XR, we would love to have you all with us. We do hold private training sessions. We've done it with Walmart, the US Navy, various post-secondary institutions. So whatever your interest is, give us a shout. More than happy to speak more to that, and Ed would love to have you with us. For those of you who said you were a 9 or an 8 out of 10 in Unity, we have our XR Project Accelerator course, our advanced program, for those of you looking to really touch up on a project of yours. It's an 8-week course that culminates in the design and development of a capstone project, supporting, our students to build and publish their own complete XR experience. So if you're interested in that, check it out. It's on our website. Dan will probably drop a link into the chat there. And for those of you who are beginners and new to this and maybe looking to take it a step further, we have our XR Development with Unity course. We've been holding it for 5 years now. Over 1,000 students who have taken this course. It's all live and online, 10 weeks long, 4 hours a week, 3 in class with 1 hour private session to work on your personal project, idea, and interest. We have 1 or 2 seats left for the September 28th course. So if you're interested, feel free to hop on our website, check out the syllabus, apply if this is something you want to get into. If you want some time to work on it, December 1st is the course following that, and the price is $39.50 for those interested. Now, what can you expect to learn in the XR Development with Unity course? It's giving you the understanding and foundation of Unity and how to make VR and AR apps in Unity. It'll cover C# fundamentals, and again, it's 4 hours of instruction per week with one-on-one mentorship on a personal project. For both of the courses, we offer payment plans, so 3-month payment plans, 6-month payment plans, and 12-month payment plans, just to help out with the finances there. And there's no experience required. So newbies, have no fear. We welcome everyone from all walks of life and would love to have you with us sometime in the future. That's what we're here for. So if you're interested, check it out. Download our syllabus. Apply now, circuitstream.com/course. We'd love to chat more. But let's get into the Q&As. I know there's a lot of great questions here. So I'll full screen you here, Adriana. I'm sure people would love to see you over me. Some people are tired of seeing me probably. But let's dive into let's dive into the questions here. So I'll go with the upvotes. Adriana, do you see anything that catches your eye first that you'd like to answer?
There is a really great question about how to test your design prototype in the age of COVID-19. It's new for all of us, and so I think it's always tricky for users, especially like if you're using if your experience is running on a high-end device like HTC Vive or something, or you need a highly controlled environment, then this is hard. Like you need to make sure, of course, it's all sanitized and so on. But if it's like a web VR experience or a web AR, I think like the best thing to do is to, for instance, like send something through like test flight on iOS or some builds for Android, and send like Google Cardboards for people to kind of like try the gist of it. They're super cheap, and also like you can even make them yourself apparently. But yes, it's a huge challenge today.
Perfect. So let me just answer as marked. Thanks for catching that. Let's see. There's the Carrie, one of our students here, had asked a question, and I'll start a live answer here. How do you build out storyboard or concepts in 3D space? Do you have a template or a process that you can maybe touch up on?
Yeah. It's a big one. It really depends of like what's the experience and who is the client and how we communicate. I have so sometimes I just do kind of like 2D, like regular storyboarding. For instance, when I really want to highlight a specific info or something, and because it's just the easiest to share. Like if I share like a build of something, I'm not sure that everybody at the client's company will be able to try and test. But when there's really like nowhere around it, so I've created kind of like in Unity a base scene where it's basically like a 360, like it's like you're inside a sphere. Mm-hmm. So I can project, it's a sphere, it's like a skybox, so you can project any 360 video. So what I do is I go on, this is very hacky, this is prototyping, but I love it. So I go onto YouTube usually, I try to find a 360 video that has kind of like the vibe of what we want, like if it's something underwater and so on. Then I take it from YouTube using, like YouTube link to video converter. And then I just drop it into my Unity scene so that it's the background, it's the skybox. And after that, I try to find some free or like almost free assets for the different props that I will need and that I will use as a placeholder.
Awesome. Very
But of
interesting.
course, it depends of every project, and
Right.
this is kind of the common denominator.
Perfect. Let's see. Anything that's caught in your eye for questions here that we might have not answered, or you want me to keep tossing them and see if we could answer them?
How would you make sure to maintain presence while making sure to keep the player directed on the right path? So this is always about tipping. It's like setting up your users for success. You want them to be on the right path on their own, to find it on their own. So that's also why you kind of like need to test with users to know what's obvious for them and what's not, and kind of like make sure to have like more than one more cue. Like, if you're like stuck, like behind, like you're lagging, have like kind of like more different ways to bring you back to the right direction to make sure that you haven't missed the train. And maintaining presence is, I feel like the sense of presence is really strong when all your like as many senses and sensations are involved in the experience. So it's the sound, it's like the small details, it's so like how you see yourself, the avatar, how the light is changing as you're progressing into the experience. If it's like a sunset experience, like having like, you can feel the time passing by as you see like the sun setting down. There's really an infinite amount of things that can be done. And so that's why it's difficult to summarize into one framework. So what I would suggest is like try to find in the real world experiences that are the closest to what you want to create into your XR experience, and really explore with like your eyes wide open, your ears also wide open, and take notes, and be really focused on the moment so that you're not, because like really just be there to collect information, because when you start being into your thinking mode, building mode, like you're not as present. Also, I have I have a very young brother and a sister, and they love what I'm doing, and I love with children is like they're always so open about what they feel and what they see into an experience. So they're kind of like my ultimate test.
Yeah, no, it's great to see the children getting into it and minds blown anytime they see what we're working on. Now, I have a question here from Jorge Ortiz. So does storytelling allow branching depending on user actions, or is it all a fixed storyline in an immersive environment?
So storytelling is just a general word. So it includes branching, and it includes linear narratives. And of course, branching is highly, highly, highly recommended in XR. We have finally hardwares and softwares to enable that. So yes. And it's even better when it's depending on user actions, because, and not just random, because that's what really gives you a feeling of taking that feeling of like this presence to the next level when you really have impact on the story.
Perfect. Lovely. And then let's see what else we got here. Interesting. So here's one from Jamie. Any thoughts or experiences on use of VR with neurodiverse users, like those with autism or on the spectrum?
That's also really why you need to test with real people, and not just the people who are working with you or your like friends and family, because all of us have blind spots, and that's okay. We all have like a finite perspective and experience of the world, and we can't pretend to understand what other people feel, especially neurodiverse users. So it's not just actually having neurodiverse testers, but also having neurodiverse people in your team to build the experience. You know, make sure that your team represents your audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this always comes close to me. I know a lot of people who work with those on the spectrum, so very interested to see what comes out and how we could help them. Any questions that you see that you might want to answer? I have one here from Maxime Léger, which is related to potentially cinema. So let's toss it in here. How does the language of XR relate to the language of cinema?
It's a great question, because most definitely XR will create its own language, and like there are concepts in XR that will make no sense in other mediums, but I am drawing a lot of inspiration from cinema, because this is like one of the most popular and mainstream form of entertainment today, and it's like cinephiles are like span all across the globe, like different age groups, like all genders, all ages, and so on. So I like to take inspiration from what we know the most, what works. Also, cinema has really developed a different language to like create different emotions which we want in XR. And I feel that the more cinematic XR experiences, where those who had the widest appeal to like more mainstream audience. But I think what an XR experience is really powerful when it's at the intersection of cinematic universes and interactivity, because cinema is not interactive today. Or if you have like interactive pieces, like I would argue that it's not really cinema anymore. So that's the sweet spot to me.
Mm-hmm. Fabulous. Now let's see if there are any recent questions here that have come in. Let's see. So here's one from Thomas Kinnear 3 minutes ago. How much can a designer really achieve alone? Which disciplines do you regularly collaborate with? Is it programmers, 3D artists, animators? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. So I've done some projects all alone. Like the first one I did, like Midnight Sky for cardboard. But, like when you're alone, you are limited by yourself and your resources. And honestly, I would not recommend to try to do everything on your own. And I specialized in design and storytelling, because that's what I like the most, and that's where I felt I could bring the most value. Mm-hmm. But then it's also all about like your like how ambitious your project is.
Right.
But in general, I would say like a team, like the minimum team would have a designer, a 3D artist, an animator and a programmer, and then it depends of. But even when we think about like 3D art, 3D artist is a catch-all terms, but there are so many different disciplines that fall under that are full-time jobs, between modeling, rigging, animating, and all that, you know. So it depends on the specificity, but I think it's not realistic to do something on your own.
Yeah, it's a little harder. Now, I found this great question here, and it's asking about your acting. So I'm sure you'll probably love it there. But Daud Al-Zayer had asked, how does your acting inform your XR storytelling?
Oh, that's an amazing question, because for me, it comes from the same place within me. Acting is about creating and embodying different characters. And when we watch a movie or a play, often we feel we have strong reactions when we recognize pieces of ourselves in what we're seeing. Like, for instance, we feel the injustice and the anger, and you know, like, it touches at like, it makes our blood boil, not just at an intellectual level. So for when it comes to acting, it takes a lot of empathy and listening and paying attention to how other people react, like their body language and so on, and the different cues, and also an awareness of my own emotions. And for me, when I'm creating XR experience and storytelling, it's the same. It's the same work. It's the same like initial research. The difference is I am like creating like an XR experience for you to be in my shoes. So it's like I have to be like even more mindful of the different people who can like experience the story.
Yeah, it comes from inside, right?
Always. It always comes from the heart.
Wonderful. And then kind of a general question here, one from Lucas Kao. Who is exciting to watch in the VR AR world for you, Adriana?
Ooh. So many people. I mean, it really depends. So I have well, basically all the experience I've put as examples in my presentations are you know, things like our experiences that made me react and so on. And I like, usually I try to follow all their makers on Twitter and so on. It's difficult to name like single names because it's such a collaborative effort to build XR experiences that I think it's not fair. It's like giving credit to like one person. One thing that I'm really excited, so Jon Favreau, the director of The Lion King and of the Mandalorian Star Wars show on Disney Plus, they released a trailer named like Gnomes and Goblins. That's a VR experience, and I really liked it because it felt pretty soothing, and I'm quite sick of VR experiences where they are violent and where you have to shoot other people, and especially like the shape of controllers. It's like it feels sometimes like they are designed like guns.
For it,
I think we have enough of that in the real world. But also, so Jon Favreau has worked a lot. So, for instance, like he's worked a lot with like cutting edge VR technology and introducing them in you know, like movies. So for instance, The Lion King that came out last year was a film that was actually built in VR, and so he used like VR headsets. I think it was like an HTC Vive to walk around the virtual sets and choose the shots they would take. Also for like the Mandalorian, some of the scenes, so you see like the actors in those like amazing environments. Those environments are like projected behind them on like curved screens, and as the camera moves, the projection moves, you know, using the gyroscopes and so on in the cameras, and which is it's a VR technique. So the thing is, like in VR we do it virtually inside a game engine, where like with a skybox, that's what we do. But here it's applied to the real world. And also I think it's amazing because with COVID changing the games, that allows to still like make huge productions with a smaller crew.
Right.
A smaller crew, like at a given moment on set.
Wonderful. Perfect. Any questions come along that you see, or can keep tossing them your way? No worries. We'll probably take another 10ish minutes or so to answer some questions. So again, if you guys see some cool ones that you want to upvote for us to answer, please do that. We'll be checking them out. I mean, this one's similar to one you mentioned, but any other artists or filmmakers working in VR that you could maybe suggest to the audience to check out?
I follow also a lot of 3D artists, like for instance, like Tilbrush artists, you know, who paints like in VR, or different. I'm sorry, I don't always know their names.
Yeah, there's so many, right?
Often, like they use pseudonyms. So what I can like usernames. So what I can do, I can compile a list from the people I follow, and I'll post it, and I post tomorrow on Twitter.
Perfect.
Okay.
Let's see what else we got here. So maybe you don't have to go too in depth with this. I'm sure you can continue on forever, but Tom is asking if you could give an overview of your design process. Maybe just a brief overview.
Yes. The very first step is understanding the problem that we have. Sometimes I notice that people will say that they have let's say they want to build something specific, but they are trying to answer a different problem. Like they have the idea of the problem and the solution. So first I try to really untangle all that to go straight to the problem we're trying to solve. Then when we have the problem, we'll make some different hypotheses of causes of the problems and solutions. And for the causes of the problems, usually would be digging into any information we can have. So that's the analytics. Maybe people are talking on social media about the experience, what's being said, like support tickets are, trying to be creative in finding information anywhere. And then once we have an idea of like, we're making hypotheses for potential solutions and so on, I'll start like sketching different wireframes. And it's pretty rough, but the idea is also to be quick, to iterate quickly, and to get the understanding and approval of all the stakeholders involved. And the more we refine the options that we want, like the more the design will be more polished and like more detail oriented. And then we test to validate the different hypotheses. And we keep going into that loop.
Test.
Yeah, around and around and around.
That's it. Wonderful. And then let's see. Let's do a few more questions here. Anything that's caught your eye, Adriana?
Let me read.
Let's see. Here's one from my man Pavan. Just quickly, he's asking, what's that canvas or map painting in the background there behind you?
I don't know. I don't know. This is not my environment. Yes.
Okie dokie. Ooh, this one's pretty good if you haven't found one yet. I'll toss it here. It's from Eric. Is storytelling in VR more in depth compared to AR? And maybe AR is more about functioning, helping user complete tasks or so?
Well, so I think it's really interesting, the whole debate around AR and VR, because AR and VR, technically, there's a huge overlap in building them, but philosophically, they are entirely different. In VR, you can ignore everything that we know, like even like laws of physics, whereas AR is grounded in reality. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say that one is more in depth than the other. It really depends. It's just as deep as you choose it to be. However, because in VR you have full control over the environment, you can I think it's easier to get pretty detail oriented and like create something entirely different. But I would say like more when it comes to choosing AR or VR to like tell a story, I would say more is this about the universe, or is it because you want the user indeed to perform specific tasks in the story? So in that sense, yes, you can say that AR is more functioning, but not always. Like for instance, face filters are AR experiences, but here it's more about bringing your universe to the user, whereas VR is bringing the user to your universe.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense, yeah. Perfect. And then I see some questions here on the Oculus Quest 2. I mean, Lucas, you can't go wrong. It's fairly affordable. I think it was cheaper than the one when it first came out. Stronger, lighter, better pixels, frame rates. So those are my thoughts. Get your hands on one. Might be hard now, but we'd recommend it. Let's see what else we got here. So we'll take a few more questions. I know it's getting very late for you on your end, Adriana, so wouldn't...
Okay. I'm still standing.
Wonderful. So let's see if there's any, let's see, upvotes. So we got most of the upvoted ones. Let's see for not answered. So any resources like books or websites that you can maybe offer to people for UX in XR?
Where I get most of my my resources is on Medium, usually Twitter and Medium, and it's following makers directly. It's a bit of a frustrating answer because I'm not giving you directly a link. I'm sorry, but it's moving so fast, and also like I think there's really something is like rules are not set in stones. Like things that may not work for a given experience will work pretty well. There's just so many things to do. But so me, what I do is every time that I find something that an experience that moved me, I try to find the people who worked on it, like in the credits and so on. And then I follow them on social media. And sometimes I create certain social media accounts just for the feed, just to have a curated feed of what those people are doing. And what I love about XR is that a lot of people are sharing. They're sharing a lot about their processes compared to other artistic disciplines where it's more about I'm keeping my secret sauce, like behind the curtain. There's a group on Facebook named Women in VR. There are always a ton of like super like cool people sharing about their work, the questions that they have when they are doing their work, and it's a huge source of resources for me. So women, I think it's now it's like Women in AR VR on Facebook. It's a huge group. There's like thousands of people in it.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I'll write that down. I'll get Dan to note it down as well, and we'll share it with everyone to check it out. Sounds good. What else? So, Ricardo, 3-in-1 question for you, kind of around design, but also mentioning sound. How early does sound come into the design process? Do you design with sound in mind often? And do you feel that there are any limitations sound-wise?
So I think sound should come from the get-go in the design, because we tend to over kind of like emphasis on the visual, because this is like we're in a very visual society in general, but it's just as important. You can scroll on your phone without like having headphones and so on, but maybe you can have like some AR experiences without sound, but not in VR, because like if you keep, hearing the ambient noise around you, like you'll never have the presence. So I think you should. This is, from like the inception of the experience. So personally, I'm a very visual person, and that's where I'm aware of my own limitations. And I work with people who are. It depends on the experience, but sometimes like who are musicians and so on, and like who have like a very sensitive ear, and they also. But it's not just that; it's also the vocabulary to communicate and express with the different people who make the experience.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Always keeping it top of mind, hey? Wonderful. I did see a great question here. It had quite a few upvotes from Dario Hernandez. So what rabbit holes would you recommend that they stay away from when working with AR, XR, VR projects?
What rabbit holes?
Yeah, so what
like distractions?
Yeah, distractions, yeah, things that lead you astray.
Oh, well, that depends of everyone. We all have our different distractions, right? I don't know. It's maybe I misunderstand the question, but I would say like it's about looking into ourselves and our like weaknesses, our like weak spots, and knowing what are the things that can suck you into like a rabbit hole and so on.
Yeah.
Is this about
more like dead ends? Let's say. So I see John Kirk said dead ends. Zach, like some complex problems. Essentially, yeah. Glenn was saying, where you run into a wall.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say, try. It's amazing to be ambitious and have like big ideas. We all should, but try to not set ourselves for failure by aiming too high. If we want to build like a huge infinite world, it's likely that it will take a lot of resources and a lot of time and a lot of testing and a lot of like reflection and thinking, and the risk is to feel too small, to feel like too intimidated by the task. So I'd recommend like starting small, starting with what you know and what you can easily learn. Like step a little outside of your comfort zone, but not too far. Mm-hmm. And also like can like build organically, because otherwise the risk is just to when it's small, we can already share it with people. We can already get feedback and enrich the increase the experience. Whereas when it's too big, the risk is like it's always under constructions. Nobody can see it, and it's just heartbreaking.
That makes sense. Yeah. So start small and scale, right?
Exactly.
Right. Fabulous. So let's check out these upvotes again, see if there's anything. So we kind of touched up on it a little bit, but we'll toss it back in here quickly for you. So Keith is asking suggestions as to storyboarding, and we touched on storyboarding a bit as well, but could you maybe highlight that once more?
Yes. So I think I mentioned it for like the prototyping process. And what I said is, if I want to share information very quick, I'll default to 2D, and because this is the easiest to share. So that's typically storyboarding. And if we need more data, more information, then build a prototype scene. To story. So also, like, this is not like the ultimate truth in the industry. It's just how I do it, and I learn. And I always like learn a new tools for each different project, and sometimes change all my processes and kind of like pipelines. But in general, like, it depends. Like, for storyboarding, I've used Figma in the past, because it's a 2D design tool, but you can also like, I think it was Vecchioli, you can like import some 3D shapes. And it's just that I'm really comfortable with Figma in general. If I'm going to work on the storyboard with people who are not designers, who are non-technical, I'll use sometimes like a tool like Google presentation that was really not built for that. But so that brings a lot of limitations. But in that case, access is the easiest, because anybody is able to like add some simple shapes. And it's all about communication and finding like a common language. And if need be, I can take those and make a more polished storyboards in another tool, and more likely Figma in that case.
Right. Perfect. Thanks for sharing. Wonderful. So let's wrap it up here with 2 last questions. For any questions that we may have not got a chance to answer, we do have it all recorded and written down. Daon's in the back typing away, so we'll be sure to get back to those. And if we don't answer them now, feel free to follow up with us with an email. We'd be more than happy to try and shed some light on there, forward it to Adriana, and see if she would be able to answer those. But with the last 2 questions, and these are 2 upvoted ones as well, from Lena Wolf, what are your networks for finding collaborators for XR projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's where also it's really useful to follow people, like content creators who've made things that you really resonate with. Because sometimes I would start following like an artist just because I liked what they did, and then it can like shape, it inspires me and influences me. And so then after, when we need to hire an artist or another designer, I may reach out. So social media, the same groups I mentioned, women in AR/VR. It's not only women in this group also. What else? If you're working in XR, I think make sure to have a portfolio with a lot of stuff, and even share some like unfinished work in progress explorations on social media. Because through the magic of Googling, you can find a lot of things. And some of the most interesting projects I was like, people reached out to me for, they found me through something that I did that they found online, like an article that I wrote, or an app that I tried to do, and then I, just, once I was done with it, I just and moved on to another side project. I just published it for anyone to use and so on. So yeah. Also, I try to go beyond words of mouth and the people of my close circle to avoid kind of like fishbowl thinking, where everybody thinks alike, and we all have the same blind spots. And that's, where it's useful to have like diversity in your team. But that means like you have to kind of like go, go like a step further into searching.
Right. That makes sense. Perfect. And now the last question here that we'll wrap up with is from Olivia. Let's relate it to you, kind of your artistic storytelling background. Which technical skill would you recommend learning first for creating XR applications?
There are, I think Unity is always a very safe bet. And you will agree on that, right? Yeah. You can build almost anything on Unity, even if like you're a 360 video filmmaker, and you may think like, oh, game engines, they are for like the video games type of people, they're not for me. No, because you can really build the apps in Unity that will host your experience. And if you go, for instance, like add some interactivity or like some branching storylines, you can all do that in Unity. Also, Unity is just so wide. Like when people say like they are strong in Unity, but like, yes, but what in Unity? Like, are you an artist that's creating amazing textures, or like the game dynamics and so on? So if you don't know where to start, I would suggest, and then refine, but by what you love, because what you love to do, that's what you'll do, with the most like innovative thinking and so on. And also just in general, Unity is kind of like, I feel like the connecting glue in a lot of AR and VR app. Like for instance, you can like, a 3D artist will give you their assets that you'll drop into Unity and so on. But also, like, if you're a beginner and you just want to have a little fun, and like, I would suggest try like Snapchat Lens Studio or Spark AR, because they have a lot of cool things you can do with, like very non-technical skills. And the good thing is like you can share them with your friends after. And that's always motivating.
Awesome. No, thank you for the insight. That's wonderful. Well, you know what? We'll wrap up there. Guys, if let's do maybe some virtual applause, throw in some clap emojis or thank yous around. Adriana, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup for joining us today and helping lead this webinar and workshop. Those answers were fabulous. Again, for all of you who may have not had your questions answered, there was a lot of them. We're sorry not to get to them. Shoot us an email with those questions. We will have it recorded down. We'll forward it to Adriana. And again, merci beaucoup. Thank you so much, Adriana.
And thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Of course. No, it's the least we could do, and we're very grateful to have had you with us. So again, thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in to this workshop and webinar. Great to see such large attendance today. Thank you again. Adriana, I wish you a wonderful night. For those of you, a great evening in North America. Good morning for those further out in Asia. And thanks again. So we'll catch you all for the next workshops and webinars. I think we have an introduction to AR or VR in 2 weeks from now. Check it out if you're a beginner. Again, we would love to have you with us in the courses. And thanks for joining us all. It was a pleasure to have you. And Adriana, again, you're great. We loved you, and thank you.
Me too. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Thanks. Bye.